Good evening, Ashish. Please take your seat. Let's start with your introduction.
So, my name is Ashish Kumar. I have completed my graduation from the Banaras Hindu University, graduation in law that is. After that, I worked for 2 years as an associate with a law firm. Post that, I completed my post-graduation in law from the Indian Law Institute. And then I joined the Indian Oil Corporation as a law officer. Apart from that, I enjoy reading non-fiction works and sometimes traveling whenever the commitment allows.
Okay. Recently or yesterday only we got to know that the Chief Minister of Delhi is arrested, right? What we can hear from news is that he can actually serve or run his office from the jail itself. So what do you think about that? Is it possible as per law for a Chief Minister to be in jail and still manage the government, run the government?
So there is no direct legal embargo or a provision which says that that cannot happen. However, there will be functional difficulties because ultimately a chief minister in a parliamentary form of government is the keystone for governance. If we are to look at the Constitution, Article 74 Clause 3, it clearly says that the President, and in this case Lieutenant Governor, has to act on aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister. So if the Chief Minister will be bound in the jail, it will be very difficult for him to function effectively. So yeah, there is no direct legal embargo, but there are technical difficulties which might arise.
Don't you think anyone who is arrested and in jail, should have some restriction in terms because of his ethics or question on his ethics or credibility? Shouldn't there be a provision in the constitution to immediately put a bar?
Sir, our legal system works on the principle of innocent until proven guilty. And a person is proved guilty when there is a conviction on record. So there are provisions within the Representation of People Act 1951 which says that if there is a conviction then of 2 years or more, and there are other such disqualification under Section 8 as well, then a person can be disqualified from holding a public office. However, just because a person has been arrested, the guilt has not been established. Therefore, to demit a person from public office just because he is arrested would lead to serious consequences and would lead to violation of a very important legal maxim which I stated in the very beginning.
So may not be a ban, but don't you think a temporary restriction or a temporary replacement, there should be a provision? Or you think that being arrested is actually something which can happen even without any for fair investigation for that matter? Don't you think he need to resign temporarily from his office?
Ethically, the chief minister or any person who's holding any public office should resign so that they can participate in the investigation fairly. So that has been actually the scene because there were other arrests within the Delhi government earlier, and the people who were arrested, they demitted their ministerial posts. So that should be the way to go, because ultimately a minister or a chief minister has to be outside for serving the people, and as I told, for aiding and advising the Lieutenant Governor on executive actions. So that should be the way to go. However, there is no legal impediment as of now, but that is the convention which is being followed.
Okay. What do you think? What is the difference between law and ethics? And do we have complete ethics in our legal system today, or we find a conundrum there?
Sir, law and ethics are correlated actually, because there are schools of thoughts within the legal system which says that if a law is not ethical, then that law cannot be enforced. A similar school of thought is a natural law school, where they use the word morality, but they substantiate it to mean ethics only. So there is a very hard correlation between law and ethics. However, the point where there is some distinction is that law is more objective, and ethics, normative ethics can be objective, but ethics are more subjective in nature. And to run a country, or for that matter any society which is complex and wherein Decisions need to be made on a day-to-day basis. Objectivity is required. So that is where law departs from ethics to some extent. However, ethics should be ingrained in the principle of law to make it enforceable within any society.
So, if I take it from your last statement, law should never go away from ethics in any case. It should always follow the principles of morality and ethics.
Yes, sir. The bedrock, the grand norm of any law should be ethical principle and moral principles. However, the action of law sometimes can be objective as well, because ultimately, as I stated earlier, ethics and morality can be subjective, which is...
Can it be compromised?
No, sir. Absolutely not. I think...
if it comes in the process of justice?
So justice itself is an ethical and a moral concept. So if we are to read justice into law, then in my opinion, it would never come in the way of justice. Yes, it might seem that it is coming in the way of justice, but for a bigger picture, it will always be in the interest of justice if morality and ethics remain the bedrock of law.
Currently, you're working somewhere?
Yes, sir. I'm working as a law officer within Indian Oil Corporation.
What do you mean to say when you say a law officer? As a law officer, what exactly is your role?
My role, my day-to-day with the Indian Oil Corporation entails managing litigations and arbitration for the corporation. Apart from that, I advise the corporation on various MOUs and arrangements it enters with different businesses for its commercial dealings.
Largely into corporate law?
Yes, corporate law and dispute resolution as well.
Dispute resolution. How corporate law is different from the law which we follow in government? So you're working in a PSU.
Yes.
The law set up there, how that is different from say a proper government setup?
So there are I guess there can be two differentiation between the law. One which is called the public law, which relates with how a person or a government deals with a person, and a person deals with a person in a public setting. And then there is a private law, which is actually the main law which is applied when we talk about corporates. So when there is a dealing between two corporates or a corporate and a person, the principles of private law are applied more. And when the dealing is between a state and a person or a different organs of the state, principles of public law are applied more.
Okay. I can see that you have a lot of hobbies you have.
Yes,
You
sir.
are-
I indulge in a few hobbies whenever professional commitments allow.
Okay. You have played for in your college cricket team also.
Yes, yes.
Are you following the recent IPL tournament?
Sir, since the loss in the World Cup, I have actually stopped following cricket for a while. That was a heartbreak for all of us, I
Have you
guess.
heard of the impact player rule? You know what it is?
No, sir, I have not. I'll have to read up on that.
Okay. Okay. You also like going for road trips?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of pleasure or what kind of interest you derive when you go for a road trip? What is the nature of fun which you derive from it?
I think the larger concept here is that the journey always is more important and more fruitful than the destination itself. And that is my idea behind road trips as well. I've actually traveled, I've flown to places as well, but that is not as fulfilling as actually driving to those places. So that is why I like road trips more. Wherever I could, because the road infrastructure in this country is actually improving. So that is allowing me to actually come into a few of road trips here and there. But that is the larger idea. I would like to say that journey has always been more important, has always been more fulfilling than the destination itself, and therefore the idea of road trips attracts me more so.
Okay. What is the total expanse of the road network in India?
The total expanse of road network, sir, it is third largest in the world, but number of kilometers I have to read up, sir.
How much is the length of the say national highway? You have any idea how much is the national highway road network?
I'll have to read upon, sir.
Okay. What is the scenario of road accidents currently?
Sir, the road accidents are a major concern because of limitation of infrastructure, road infrastructure in the country. Also, there is a callous attitude towards following of traffic rules. So it makes it a difficult scenario. However, we are improving with the help of AI and technology. Most of the expressways and national highways are now equipped with speed guns and such cameras, wherein the violations of traffic could be better. Also, there is another angle to it, which is the safety of the vehicle. And recently, the Minister of Road Transport, he announced that most of the vehicles in the coming years will have compulsory 6 airbags. So we are making strides towards safety of the vehicle as well. So I think through all of this, we can first of all avoid road accidents and also avoid casualties in the same. So
What are the any scheme or any legal statute laws for road safety which you can think of?
So the main statute is the Motor Vehicle Act, wherein most of the offences or most of the rules which a person needs to follow while using the road or the motor vehicle is given.
Three major provisions of the recent changes in Motor Vehicles Act.
The the penalties have been increased for most of the offences in the Motor Vehicle Act. Apart from that, the major changes in the rules, because there are changes in the rules.
Yeah.
If I could substantiate,
Yes.
there are changes in the rule with regard to the technical specification of the vehicles as well, and that is all I can implement for now.
How are you?
Ma'am, I'm well. Thank you for asking.
So your address is mentioned as Faridabad.
Yes, that is where my parents live. I'm not currently residing in Faridabad. I'm residing in Calcutta.
Do you know that Faridabad is famous for the henna industry? Have you heard of that?
It is famous for the secondary sector, henna industry in particular.
You haven't read about it?
No, I've not read about it.
Okay. Okay, tell me something, Ashish, that you've mentioned that your mother is a housewife, but you mentioned some annual income, right?
Yes.
Why that discrepancy?
My mother contributes most of her time in actually managing our household affairs. However, she manages a couple of properties which belongs to my family. The income which is accrued from such properties is actually her income, and therefore it's reflected there.
So you're also not following the current IPL because of the loss in the World Cup.
Yes.
But don't you think that shows a lack of optimism or faith? It's a match, you will win and you will lose, but not following a match because we lost in one match. Is that not a little negative?
Ma'am, I'm really optimistic for the Indian cricket team, and I tend to watch those matches even today. However, I'm not following it that greatly because, yes, there is a remorse, but I will recover in time, ma'am. I'm optimistic. Yeah.
Okay, so you've done your graduation from Banaras Hindu
Yes,
University. Okay, can you tell me something about the history of BHU?
Yes, ma'am. Banaras Hindu University was established in the year 1916 by Mahamana Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. It was a concerted effort by Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya and other nationalists who thought that there was a need of a university which serves the Indic and Indian interest, because other universities established at that point in time were all established by the British government. So that was the history. One more historical point which is very important is that Mahatma Gandhi made his first public address at the time of inauguration of the Banaras Hindu University in 1960. So that was also a very important historical aspect about the university.
Okay, tell me something, Ashish, that the name Banaras Hindu University, and similarly if we see names like Aligarh Muslim University, right, that does not match with the secular character of the country, I think. So do you think that the H in BHU and the M in AMU, these terms should be dropped, specifically in a country with a secular constitution?
Yes, ma'am. The secular constitution, the secularism which India promotes is not the secularism we see in the West, wherein we become absolutely blind towards the religion, and we kind of cast a curtain between the state and the religion. The Indian secularism is different. The Indian secularism entails that we will have one arm difference, like distance from the religion. The state will have that. However, it is more of a salad bowl concept wherein all the religions can exist and prosper without the state getting involved in any of them. So these words, while on the face of it might seem anti-secular, but I think they are consistent with the Indian idea of secularism.
So you think we should retain these
Yes,
words?
yes, ma'am. There is a historical value to it, and Banaras Hindu University is called Banaras Hindu University, but there is no such impediment on people from any other religion or community for studying there. Same goes for Aligarh Muslim Universities.
You've also been the president of Interact Club.
Yes, ma'am.
What is Interact Club?
Ma'am, it's a part. It's like the most basic unity of Rotary International, which functions in school or a group of school, wherein we commit to 2 community-based projects every year. The 2 is minimum, but then again you can commit to a lot of such projects which are community engagement-based. In my presidency, when I was in college, we committed to a blood donation drive, and apart from that, we committed to another another community outreach wherein my school was very near to a jail, Dasna jail. We used to go to those places and we used to teach the children of inmates. They were women inmates, so children used to live with them. So we used to do that. So these was the 2 community programs we used to do with Interact.
Nice, Ashish. Also, you've listed multiple hobbies, and you are working,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you are preparing for UPSC.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you manage your time?
Ma'am, I think these hobbies and while working and while uh, preparing for UPSC, the time management is that I do not give a lot of time to each of these hobbies. So it's like it's again a salad bowl concept only, that each of the hobbies given some time whenever the commitment allows. So I enjoy doing all of these things, but if I were to take your word, you're correct. I've not been able to give a lot of time to these hobbies since the last year, since I'm working. So yeah.
And I see you were an actor as well. You've written stage acting.
Yes. When I was in college, I was.
Tell me, since you've written theatres, what was the first theatre that was established in India?
First theatre in terms of
The first theatre to be established in the country. There has to be a starting point of theatre. For instance, we have the first film, the first production house. So the first theatre that was established here.
I'll have to read more upon that. But just to clarify, by that theatre, I mean stage acting theatre.
Yeah, I also mean a proper stage theatre.
Alright, no. So I'll have to read upon that.
And okay, tell me the difference between screen acting and stage acting.
One major difference which I could, from my experience, because I have committed to stage acting, but I've not done so much of screen acting. So this is just experiential learning which I'm sharing with you. So one difference which I could see is that in stage acting, your expressions and your actions need to be more apparent, more direct, because the camera in the screen acting catches very little emotions as well. But however, in stage acting, it is very difficult to connect with the audience unless you make it very direct and apparent. So in that terms, there is a very stark difference in how you commit to these 2 forms
Any
of.
other difference?
This is the difference I could think of, ma'am. Apart from that.
And if I have to ask you, what kind of an actor are you? Like, we have different actors, right? Classical acting, some follow method acting. What kind of an actor are you? Or what was the last play that you performed?
The last play before I graduated college was actually written by a group of filming students, and they were making it was a short film which was based on a play. So it was called Mulaqat, and therein it was more of a technical acting, ma'am, not method, because I did not get a lot of time to actually enter the character. But that was the last experience I had.
Okay, tell me the difference between classical and method acting.
I'll have to read more on that now.
Okay, so you've also worked in a legal aid clinic,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Do you, okay, tell me who is eligible for free legal aid in India?
Ma'am, if we are to go by eligibility, everybody is eligible for free legal aid, but there are some groups which are given precedence. Those groups are people who are economically or socially marginalized, women, and if a person is not getting any legal representation from any lawyer, be it because of the kind of crime they've committed or their economic background. In such cases as well, they are entitled to free legal aid under Article 39A of the Constitution.
Everyone is entitled to free legal aid. Are you sure about that?
Even if a person who comes from a greater socio-economic background and there is no representation given to him by the state or by any other lawyer, maybe because of the nature of crime
But
they've
that's an
committed.
exceptional case. If I'm talking in general.
In general, yes, that is why I said that there are some groups which are preferred, but then again, in general, it's a right, so everybody is entitled.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me, where did you last travel to?
The last trip I made was actually from Delhi to Calcutta itself.
And before that?
Before that, I went to Rishikesh from Delhi.
Okay. What can you tell me 2-3 differences that you witnessed in these journeys?
First difference was the length, ma'am. Rishikesh is just 3.5 hours, and this was a very long journey. So that was the first. Secondly, in my trip to Rishikesh, most of it was through the state of Uttar Pradesh only. So it was very homogeneous how I went. It was just western Uttar Pradesh, which I covered, and then I reached Haridwar, and that is where Rishikesh is. But in this journey, I witnessed a lot of states, a lot of, so to speak, a lot of languages, a lot of cities which I actually stopped at just to, because that is the beauty of road trip. It is not just the destination, you can actually stop by and enjoy some points in between as well. So in the longer road trip, I stopped at Varanasi. So that is how it was different as well.
Okay, my last question to you, Ashish, is as a student of law, do you think Supreme Court should establish regional benches in different parts of the country?
As a student of law and as an informed citizen of this country, I think, ma'am, there is a very important need for access to justice. Supreme Court sitting in Delhi, having its seat in Delhi, sometimes lacks that access because ultimately what happens is a person who's aggrieved in Tamil Nadu, or for that matter far-flung districts of Northeast, has to travel to Delhi to even file an application under Article 32. So these regional benches will definitely serve towards access of justice, and therefore I think I support the idea of regional benches. That is one. Secondly, these regional benches could act as appellate bodies wherein the cases which are ultimately going to the Supreme Court in Delhi can go to these regional benches, and the Supreme Court in Delhi can actually handle constitutional matters. So it will free up some space and time for the constitutional benches of the Honorable Supreme Court which is there. So both of these actually are important facets wherein I would urge the Supreme Court to actually establish regional benches.
Okay, Ashish.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Ashish, you mentioned some trips. Have you ever been on a train trip?
Yes, ma'am, a lot of times.
When was the last time you were on a train trip?
The last time was in college. The Vande Bharat Express was a new train which was launched between Delhi and Varanasi.
Have you traveled in any class like sleeper class?
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
sometime before you mentioned about journey should be important
Yes.
than the destination. वो हम सुनते हैं ना गानों में सफ़र होगा क्या होगा जो भी है, तो ऐसा लग रहा है कि आप एक कंफर्टेबल जर्नी को ज़्यादा एंजॉय करते हैं कि वंदे भारत है, हम अच्छे से सड़क पे जा रहे हैं, अच्छी सी गाड़ी है. So don't you think in journey there are ups, downs, there are discomfort also? What about that?
Absolutely, ma'am, there are. And as per your question about sleeper, I have travelled in sleeper class as well. I have travelled in first class as well. I
So do you
remember.
think the journey in sleeper class is something that one can enjoy nowadays?
Ma'am, I might be coming from a point of view of privilege because ultimately I have gone for these journeys very limited number of times. For instance, when I was going for a matter in Allahabad High Court, when I was part of the legal aid clinic, I went through first class in that's not even sleeper class, which is a 2S class from Varanasi to Allahabad. So I have seen that journey, but I would admit that I come from a place of privilege wherein these point of views could be blurred for me, ma'am.
Okay, Ashish, what is the difference between judicial activism or judicial overreach?
Ma'am, judicial activism is when the third pillar of the state, which is the judiciary, takes active part in overall governance of the country. Judicial overreach, however, is that when this activism breaches the basic separation of powers between the three organs of the government, and the judiciary usurps the powers of an executive or a legislature. So that is judicial overreach.
So what is your view? Is judicial activism or overreach? Is it going in good direction? Is it correct?
Ma'am, I think we have to look at it as case to case. We have to look at it as per the case to case basis, because there are some instances where judicial activism has actually yielded good results for the governance of this country. But overall, there are also cases wherein you could allege that there has been a judicial overreach, and the judiciary has gone into the spaces which were reserved for legislature. So there are both the cases, both the points need to be made, but there is not one direction which you could point at. It has to be decided on case to case basis.
अच्छा आशीष बताइए, ये एडवोकेट्स ऑन रिकॉर्ड और जो सीनियर एडवोकेट्स होते हैं, इन दोनों में व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस?
Ma'am, senior advocates are designated by the Honorable High Courts or Supreme Court of the country as seniors after.
Are you sure about High Court?
Yeah, they are designated by the High Court as well. So they are designated as seniors, wherein they could not hold the brief themselves after being designated. There has to be a appearing or an advocate on record counsel who would brief the senior. The senior can argue. And advocate on record is a term which is used for the Supreme Court and some of the high courts, wherein it is mandated that the wakalatnama, which is the basis representative document, needs to be filed by an advocate on record for Supreme Court, and some high courts also have that kind of limit, that wakalatnama needs to be filed by an advocate on record of that particular high court.
Recently in Supreme Court, something very significant has happened in the gender representation. Okay, from advocates on record to senior advocate. Can you recall this recent current affairs in the state?
Yes, ma'am. There was an elevation of advocates. I think I'm not getting the exact number of advocates who were elevated to senior advocate position, and the mix was that more number of women advocates were promoted to senior advocacy.
So there is also, but on this same parallelly, there is a very sorry picture going on, and when we look at the women's participation in the judiciary, both you can say maybe in the judiciary itself or maybe the legal fraternity. So what do you see? How do you see this picture growing, or what is the light in the end of the tunnel when you look at women's participation in the judiciary?
Ma'am, the women's participation in lower judiciary or the subordinate judiciary, as it is said, there are some reservations which are put in place for the state of Rajasthan. The state of UP has also put some reservation wherein for subordinate judiciary or lower judiciary, there are certain percentage of seats which are reserved for women. But as for higher judiciary, which is with the Honorable High Courts of the country and Honorable Supreme Court, the picture is still very abysmal.
So you support reservation in the higher judiciary?
There should be affirmative action to make
Which
it
means
more.
what? Reservation.
Ma'am, not necessarily reservation. There should be affirmative action in terms of the collegium, which promotes members of the bar and bench to higher judiciary, which is before the High Court and the Supreme Court, should be mindful that the gender representation and community representation need to be taken care of. But I do not exactly favor, because I think I will have to read more upon how reservation will affect higher judiciary to actually come out with a cogent argument on that.
Ashish, you are currently staying in which place?
Calcutta, Kolkata.
Which year the name was changed?
It was changed post-independence. I'll have to read more on it.
Post-independence. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. That is the best I could come up with. I'm sorry.
Okay. So for how long, Ashish? कब से रह रहे हैं आप?
It's been a year, ma'am.
एक साल ही हुआ है अभी?
Yes.
क्या चल रहा है अभी कोलकाता में, पश्चिम बंगाल में अभी? Is anything going on there? Any particular district in West Bengal very much in news?
Yes, ma'am. There is a place called Sandesh Khali in West Bengal. which is very much in news for all the wrong reasons, because the local, the matrix between the local,
Which district?
it is in North 24 Parganas, if I'm not wrong. So uh, in that that area, there is this unholy nexus between the criminal. It is alleged that there is an unholy nexus between the criminals and the political class there, because of which the women in the region and people in general have suffered. So,
So okay, let's make a situation. You are placed as a DM or maybe somebody who's looking after the district in the initial years. So tell me some of the initial things that you will do in order to handle this Sandesh Khali issue.
I think the first important facet which we see in the lot of protest and the lot of comments which has come from people who've been affected by this violence is that there are no cogent mechanism or cogent mechanism for access of justice for them. So the first thing is that they need to be heard. So the first and foremost thing I'll do is registration of FIRs on the basis of complaints which are made by all of these women and other people who've suffered at the hands of the criminals in that area.
But that's what the people are saying. When they were about to register, it was not registered. So now what will you say? Because जब ये हो रहा था केस, पहले ही registration अगर हो जाता, so the question is कि अब लोग क्यों आ रहे हैं? ED के आने के बाद people are coming right now. So the question is how that registration can take place. You can't simply say police will do it. Something extra need to be done. What is that extra that can be done so that they are heard?
Ma'am, the police needs to be sensitized, and the police needs to be told that the FIR is a basic right of an individual on any crime any crime which happens has to be, and even if it's not for sure that such incident has happened, but FIR is a right which needs to be registered, and the police needs to be sensitized accordingly. And that is the first step, and why I mentioned FIR, because that from FIR it is that the entire process kicks off, and therefore that is the first information which as me as a administrator in this region would require, so that we could effectively tackle the problem. Because ultimately there is a lot of news reports, media reports and everything out there which creates a cloud of not only information but also misinformation. So to get to the core of the issue, we need to get information from the people who've actually suffered, ma'am, and that can be done through FIR.
Okay, Ashish, few things. Recently, these 3 new criminal laws. Can you name them? What is their जो उनका हिंदी में नाम है आपको पता है?
भारतीय न्याय संहिता, which will replace the Indian Penal Code. भारतीय साक्ष्य संहिता, which will भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता, which will replace the CRPC, and भारतीय साक्ष्य अधिनियम, which will replace the evidence code. I'm sorry, ma'am, my Hindi is
देखिए आप की मदर टंग हिंदी है आशीष, आपको डिफिकल्टी हो रही है. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक, क्योंकि साउथ में भी इस तरीके के काफ़ी प्रोटेस्ट हो रहे हैं या अपने अपने प्रोटेस्ट है या जो भी बात है कि हिंदी में या जो ये नाम है रिफ्लेक्ट. सो डू यू सपोर्ट द नेम्स एज सच, डू यू सपोर्ट रादर अ नेम इन इंग्लिश?
Ma'am, Hindi and English are both official languages of the Union according to the Official Languages Act of 1965. So it is open for the central government to have an act which is named in Hindi or English, and there is an authoritative English translation of this within the act as well. So that can be used in the court of law if.
So उसमें जो changes हुए आपने कुछ पढ़े हैं?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going into that. So my last question to you, Ashish. So you have to just pick one of the acts. Okay, I'm giving you 2 options. One is Surrogacy Act, and another is Medical Termination of Pregnancy. You have to just pick one of them.
Ma'am, pick in terms of.
Just pick one of them, because then you will be asked question on that.
All right. Ma'am, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act.
So can you give me few provision of this act?
Yes, ma'am. The limit for termination of pregnancy has been increased to 24 weeks, and there was a requirement for two doctors, a consultation of two doctors earlier for termination of pregnancy beyond 12 weeks, which is now come to one doctor till 20 weeks. After that, for 20 to 24, there will be a medical board, and there are some conditions under which such termination can happen. There is an important Supreme Court judgment recently as well, wherein this act talked only about married women, but the Supreme Court has extended the coverage to all women, married or unmarried. The differentiation cannot be made, and apart from that, is all I could come up with.
Hello Ashish, how are you? कैसे हैं?
I'm well, sir. Thank you for asking, sir.
Okay. So what is the profit of IOCL last financial year?
Sir, our profit after tax is around 8,000 crores, 8,200 something.
It is one of the most profitable from the PSUs of Government of India.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how do you think the culture of IOCL can be incorporated into other PSUs to make them profitable?
I think I have very limited study on other PSUs, but I can give some examples of what I found very efficient with Indian Oil. So one of those examples is that there is a very apparent goal setting, which is called MOU parameters, which is set between the ministry and the corporation and the state units. I currently work with the West Bengal state unit, the state unit and the department, and ultimately department and the officer. So this target setting actually helps, and this target setting is done in the beginning of year itself. So this target setting actually helps every officer to realize what they are supposed to commit for the next 1 year, and they work accordingly. So this target setting actually helps in efficiency in the corporation. Apart from that, the corporation has made strides in adopting the governance principles. Most of the approvals and most of the day-to-day of work is done through e-networks and ECMS and SAP as well, which is not true for most other PSUs, because I've come in contact with other oil PSUs as well, wherein such systems are not in place. So I think the good thing about the Indian Oil Corporation is it is using the best of the government schemes and initiatives, and it is adopting it in principle. So that is what is making this corporation a good corporation to work with, sir.
Okay, Ashish. What according to you is the biggest challenge for India at global level?
Biggest challenge for India, sir?
Yes.
Sir, the biggest challenge for India, can I take a moment to think about it, sir?
Yes.
Sir, I think the biggest challenge to India in terms of economy and geopolitics relates to that we are a growing economy, and that growth is staggered on our tertiary sector, which is the service sector, which has its limitations. So unless we find a way to scale the population to a certain limit and ultimately invite industries to this country and start up our manufacturing sector to the level where we have such sectors in China and other countries, the geopolitical relations will also be affected, and the economic hopes of this country will also be affected. So I think one switch which the country economically needs to make is towards more robust manufacturing sector, secondary sectors.
Yes. What do you mean by the term demographic dividend?
So demographic dividend is a term which is used for it's a dividend, or it's a profit which can be accrued from the human capital of a particular nation. Now it is said that India is having a great demographic dividend because we have a great youth population, but that can only be realized if the population is scaled, healthy and educated. So,
Is demographic dividend turning into demographic disaster? What is your opinion?
So there are theories about it. There is a Malthusian theory which says that population overload leads to issues with, first of all, governance and also resources. But then again, in the Indian case, we have seen that the population has actually helped, because I will give you one example through my own understanding, sir. The biggest inflow of funds in India happens through remittances, not even FDI, not FII, through remittances, which basically means that the biggest export India has is human capital. So human capital has actually worked in favor of India, and for that to continue working in favor of India, scaling health and education, as I mentioned earlier, is very important.
Okay, Ashish. So you have appreciated the road infrastructure in recent years. Can you tell me the rate of road construction, average road construction per day or per month in India?
Sir, it is around 30, 29, 30, I'll have to confirm, but it is around that figure, sir.
Kilometer per day?
Sir, I'll have to read more, sir.
Okay.
I'm not sure, sir.
No problem. It is said that bail is the norm, jail is an exception.
Yes, sir.
So, are you think that the trial courts in lower judiciary are reluctant to give bails to the accused?
Yes, sir. There is a growing trend wherein we see that most bails are processed in the higher judiciary, be it the High Court or the Supreme Court, and the lower courts are reluctant in giving such bails. The main reason which I could think from my understanding and my reading is that lower judiciaries have a limited power. That is, that they do not exactly interpret the law, but they also follow the law which has been established through the legislature or the law declared by the Supreme Court under Article 141 of the Constitution. So, while following such law, there is a sense of doctrinal limit which is imposed on them and not on the Constitutional Court, which can actually go into the merits of seeing whether the person can abscond and other such questions. So, therefore, the lower judiciary is to some extent actually hesitant in giving bail, given that bail is an exception as compared to the higher judiciary.
Okay, Ashish. You have lived in Banaras.
Yes, sir. I have, sir.
What is your opinion about Masan Holi? Have you been to Manikarnika Ghat?
I've been to Manikarnika Ghat, but not during Holi, sadly, sir, because I had to return back to my home. But I've heard about Masan Holi. It's played with Bhasm, and it is one of the great experiences. But I sadly did not have that experience.
Have you been to Manikarnika Ghat on other days?
Yes, sir, I have. Sir.
What is the significance of that ghat?
So Manikarnika Ghat is one of the major cremation ghats of Varanasi, one of the two apart from Harishan Ghat. Manikarnika Ghat is, and there is a mythological saying that Lord Shiva actually gave a vardhan to that particular place, that pyres will not stop burning at this place. And that is something which I have observed as well, because Assi Ghat is what was very near to the campus, and whenever we used to look towards, because Varanasi is like a semicircular shape, so all the ghats can be viewed from other ghats. So from Assi, whenever we used to look at Manikarnika, there were pyres burning day, night, anytime. So yes, that is the significance of that ghat, sir.
Okay, Ashish. Did you taste Rasgulla in Bengal?
Sir, I have tasted rasgulla, but I think I find other delicacies of Bengal even better. Like I think rasgulla has become an ego issue between Odisha and Bengal, but I think there is chom chom and other things which are even more tastier in my opinion.
Okay, Ashish. What is this pro bono case in legal jurisprudence?
So pro bono cases basically means that even when a advocate is working for profit or working for some kind of monetary considerations, some cases are taken by such advocates for the public good. So pro bono is a Latin term which basically means for public good. So he commits to a few cases for public good wherein he does not expect any monetary considerations from the client.
Can you name a few landmark judgments which were fought on pro bono basis?
Yes, sir. There are a lot of such judgments actually. A lot of PIL lawyers I can name in environmental law jurisprudence. Mr. M.C. Mehta fought most cases on pro bono basis only, and it has actually transformed the environmental law jurisprudence of this country. Apart from that, there is a Center for Public Interest Litigation which is run by Mr. Prashant Bhushan. He also fights a lot of cases pro bono. The recent one being the electoral bonds case which he fought.
Okay. Are you aware of Fali Nariman, we lost a senior advocate.
Yes, sir.
Can you name some of the landmark cases that he had fought for?
Sir, in my recent memory, sir, the landmark case I can remember where he was fighting was the NJC case. Apart from that, he has been involved in a lot of cases from the very beginning because he was a very senior member of the bar. Yeah, so he's contributed drastically in the development of legal jurisprudence of this country, and it is a very great loss for the legal fraternity of this country, sir.
Do you consider advocates as a service provider?
So advocates under Advocates Act have been ruled as a noble profession, wherein it is not exactly a service provider in the colloquial term, colloquial meaning of the word, so a service provider. It is more of a noble profession wherein you commit to defend a person before the major courts of the country, and you actually dispense or contribute in dispensation of justice. So I would not categorize it as completely a service profession. However, if we are to look at the commercial consideration or the corporate law consideration, yes, it is a service profession in that regard, sir.
If it is a service profession, can advocates be sued if they lose the cases on behalf of the client? Or should they be sued?
Sir, the advocates put the best foot forward for their clients, and they defend their clients on the basis of facts and circumstances of each case. So the result of the case, if this were the bearing that the result of the case has some kind of question on the advocate themselves, be it being sued or some monetary consideration, then it will become very difficult for them to actually remain ethical, because ultimately they are very important constituent of dispensation of justice in this country, and the result of a particular trial of a particular court case should not matter. They should give their best, and ultimately the result should be what is just according to the honorable judge. So therefore I don't think they should be sued for any case which has gone wrong on their part, sir.
What do you mean by amicus curiae?
So amicus curiae is a Latin maxim which basically means friend of the court.
So is there any specific guideline to appoint someone as amicus curiae?
Sir, amicus curiae are appointed throughout on the basis of complexity of a particular case and the scholarship of the person who's being appointed as such. A standard operating procedure on the same, if there is, sir, I'm sorry, I'm missing it. But the basic idea is that a person who's appointed as amicus curiae should have the requisite scholarship of the particular case wherein he is appointed as an amicus curiae, and apart from that, the case should be complex enough to actually, the court should need such guidance from a particular person, sir.
Okay, this is one last question. Is there any provision regarding arbitration in the Constitution of India?
Sir, within the Constitution of India,
Arbitration or mediation? Both the things you can.
so the terms have been used in terms of international dispute, that the government will endeavor to solve international dispute through such peaceful means. Apart from that, a direct dispute resolution means, I'm sorry, I'm missing, I don't think
Okay,
there is
so
a term.
where has this term been used in the Constitution?
So it's in the directive principle of state policy.
Which article?
So that I'm missing, sir, I have to read out.
Article 51.
51, sir, I'm sorry, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
We'll call you back, huh?
Okay.
Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.